confinement to be set free, released, to allow someone to move, act, or flow freely. Release. The final act of a musical note. Take a moment to listen to courageous women share their tale where music offered a moment of release. In the early hours of Thursday, March the 13th, 1941, a parachute mine falls on a row of tenements, Adlington Street, Liverpool. That night, the night of the bombing, trapped and scared, they started to sing. Sing to drown the bombs out. Sing to keep your spirits up.
The barrel. We'll have a barrel of fun. Roll out the barrel. We've got the blues on the run. Zing, boom, tararel. Ring out a song of good
But that night, the night the bomb hit, they sang to calm the children. Yet one by one, the voices were silenced as the deadly hiss of gas seeped beneath the rubble.
We've got the blues on the run.
Sergeant Claydon tunnelled 20 feet through the debris. As he shone his torch through the crack, he discovered an unconscious woman lying across a piano. It was then that he heard the cry of a child. It's been said that there is no greater pain than the weight of an untold story. One of the survivors from that night, trapped in the rubble, was a young woman called Nellie. Years later, she would share her story with her granddaughter, Helen.
I used to go to stay at my grandma's quite a lot. We were very close. I used to sit with her. I used to sit on her knee and in between her legs. Felt really loved. She'd lost her mum and her brother Jimmy. She'd lost her sister and her husband and their little baby. She lost everyone, really. One time she said to me that I was her consolation prize, and what I've realised is that what she meant was my birthday being so close to the anniversary of the bomb is that I consoled her.
Nellie's family arrived in Liverpool as refugees fleeing the famine in Ireland. Liverpool was her home. The city of Liverpool, the gateway to the world. There is no part of the globe whose people have not been met on the Liverpool landing stage. These stories that we hear are passed from generation to generation, from far-off lands to our local neighbourhood. They shape our souls, our outlook, our vocation.
I am a refugee and human rights lawyer. I work with displaced people who've been displaced by war or persecution, and it's my job to help them prepare their case to find a new home, really. I like when my daughter did some homework, and what she wrote is, my mum helps people coming from war find a new safe home. And I would never put it so sweetly as that, but yeah, it's my job to help people find stability again.
Release. To escape from confinement, to be set free. Release. To allow someone to move, act, or flow freely. Release. The final act of a musical note. 50 years have passed and another conflict is about to inflict untold damage on another young woman's life. Take a moment to walk in her footsteps and to listen to how music offered a moment of release.
I had a lovely childhood. I went to music school. Throughout my schooling, I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a pianist. And so my whole life was kind of focused on that idea. At the time, I didn't have piano at home, so I had to practice at the school, at the music school. So I used to go there after my normal school every day to practice piano. And so my parents said, well, if you start secondary school, then we'll buy you a piano, because it was very expensive. I was 14, it was my birthday and everything it was perfect on that day. My piano arrived, and from then on I had the luxury of practicing piano for hours at home.
The Bosnian capital is again...
Yugoslavia fell apart in 1990, and from then on it started politically to be very unsettled. And so the war broke out first in Slovenia, 1991, and then in Croatia. And then, by that time we were all hoping that it wouldn't come to Bosnia. The world will stop it. But it didn't happen, so it did break out. And that was the end of my life, that part of my life. Everybody who had any family in Croatia or in Serbia or anywhere outside of Bosnia tried to, leave. Soon after, my parents took me and my brother to Croatia, to our cousins. There, I started secondary school, again, music school. It was very hard for me because my parents left me there on my own. My first day in school in Rijeka, you're looking for where's your class, what's the classroom. I found this one girl, also a refugee, and she showed me where we were supposed to go, and everybody ran to sit down, and so we managed to get a chair, both of us. Some of the pupils remained standing because there weren't enough chairs, and then the teacher who said, I can see that we have so many refugees that our local students haven't got a place to sit. And so that was my first and last day in school, because I didn't feel ready and strong enough to fight that.
Hurt and confused, this 15-year-old girl leaves her new place of safety and makes the journey alone back to her family in Bosnia. When she arrives on the doorstep, her parents are distraught, with tears streaming down their faces. They cannot hide their disappointment, for the place she called home is not safe.
And so I managed to go back to Bosnia, and my parents, I didn't tell them because the phones weren't working. So when I just appeared on the door, they started crying. They were very dejected and disappointed that I've decided to come back. It was full-on war there. There were so many soldiers, everybody marching around with their guns, so many refugees from inside of Bosnia in my hometown. Schools closed, gyms full of refugees sleeping on mattresses. Nothing is functioning properly. Everything is closed. It was just horrible, and then it struck me properly, like to leave, like to go to school. The war was really at our doorstep, so we needed to go. So my second time when I left Bosnia was November 1992 with my mom and my brother, and we went to Split. When we arrived there, I needed to obviously carry on school, but since the schools were already full at that time, and Split being one of the biggest cities, was flooded with refugees, they told me at the music school that they can't take any more pupils because they're full. And that was the end of my professional music career or education as such at the time. If it hadn't been for the war, I think I wouldn't be a musician. But on the other hand, I tend to think also that things happen for a reason, so there must have been a reason. I do think that when I play nowadays, albeit hard, it does give me a sense of reconciliation and channeling of some emotion and letting them go and letting those bad feelings and bad memories in myself, but rather channeling them through music into the universe, but not as bad things, but rather as like converting them into something which is more positive and beautiful.
Maybe people have forgotten that maybe there's a refugee in their family or someone that's been displaced in their family, and so it's a little bit of a bigger bridge to build to get that empathy. But I think that most people, if you help them with the bridge, they can cross it and find the empathy. And through storytelling is important. I think the telling of stories is key to building empathy in people.
Nobody would leave their home country if they hadn't been forced to. And when they see how precarious their journey is, nobody would, take their small children to such a journey where they possibly won't survive. And we have to, as a society, we have to help them. We have to have that empathy and try to, understand, first of all, that they came or they left because they had to. And secondly, that at any given time, it can happen to any of us, I think. So, more empathy and more love and more understanding. It's easy to say somebody else should help them, but it's actually we who need to help them. So why don't we, if we can, in any way?